All right. Good night, afternoon, everybody. How are we doing today? This is
Good
another
night,
episode
afternoon,
of
everybody. How we doing
Relatively
today?
Thinking. I am
This
your
is
host, Cody.
good
Another
night.
episode.
And I'm Sean. Today we got a pretty fun subject or topic to run through, take a journey with you guys with. As always, we always have those not so newsworthy news ready to come at you.
All right. Good
I
night,
apologize
afternoon, everybody.
for the
How we doing today?
the double audio.
This is,
You guys are gonna hear it
another
twice,
episode.
so-
Afternoon, everybody.
How we doing
Relatively
today?
Thinking. And it's probably gonna happen twice. All right. There we go. Now that everything's squabbled and squashed, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the slides. So, like Sean alluded to, we have our not newsworthy newses, which you guys will see every single episode as soon as my interaction box decides to populate. Here we go. All right. So, again, this is another episode of Relatively Thinking with your hosts we've already announced. So, for our not newsworthy news, let Sean go ahead and iterate his first fact.
Yes. So I kind of tied in. I made sure these quick little topics were pretty tied into what I had to talk about furthermore. But my first one, America's exceptional facade. All right. So the word exceptional. Now it seems that our country is quite, as it says, exceptional. Like it just sounds so cliche to say it the more that I think about it, but that's the way we describe our country. That's the way politicians, in fact, describe our country. Now, politicians from 1980 to 2000 used that word exceptional 500 times in 20 years. Now, 2000 to 2012, that number rose to 4,000 times in 12 years. Now, I thought this shit was just crazy. Now, this goes to go on with it's just misleading. You know what I'm saying? It's them trying to wordplay kind of in front of us, like what's better to say than our nation is exceptional and is doing tremendously, excelling and doing all like these crazy shit. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just the way it just sounds, and the way obviously the stats show how much like it just increased. It just, I don't even know. It just goes to furthermore show just how bullshit people can be, how more appealing to the population. That's the word. That's the way I'm trying to think of it. Cody, are you muted?
Like as you pointed out, it's a facade. So we have this illusion of exceptionalism. We have this illusion of being the perfect nation, the world's superpower. You can't be all of these things if you aren't exactly that. So, in my eyes, in my opinion, four of them today. So, I feel like that is just when somebody uses something that much more, or so it becomes used more frequently. There's something it's trying to hide. There's something it's trying to cover up. And obviously the opposite of that is what we actually feel on a day-to-day basis, that we're not exceptional. We're a fucking mess.
Yeah, it's like the polar opposite. It's to say what you want to be instead of what it is.
Which we all know our government to be and to do. Whatever they tell you on one hand, they're doing the complete opposite amongst 7 other things behind your back.
Yeah, I just thought, I don't know how I found those. I forget the source for those stats, but I was just like, God damn.
So
it makes so much sense. Like, I get to see like so many people nowadays. Like, I wonder, I want to find the stats from 2012 just to 2021 now, because I'd imagine that number 4,000 is somewhere near the 10,000 number now. Like,
oh yeah, I'm sure it's grown exponentially.
I'm gonna mute myself, see if I can find it. But if you want to get into yours.
Okay, well, I feel you'll find this one's pretty interesting. So, in China, they created a new glass. Now, this glass is twice as hard as diamond. For those of you that don't know, that is very, very big deal. So, glass obviously is a very fragile construction. It's very easy to break. Now, diamond is the hardest mineral that we know of on our planet. So this glass is made from carbon. And they utilize this glass that they created from carbon. It's got a yellow tint. It's not a completely clear glass. But they use this glass to scratch diamond with, which again we have not had a natural. Well, in a sense, this isn't natural, but we have not had a natural mineral that has been able to scratch diamond. Diamond is the scale. It is the top of the ladder. So they're talking about obviously utilizing this as initially bulletproof windows and stuff like that, because obviously, they want to make sure their dignitaries and everything are taken care of, and if it's that strong, why not start there? But
and architecture, those underwater hotels, that shit would be
not only that, but just think about how many other things and advances we could have. I mean, you have your fiber optic lines that we alluded to last week. That are made of glass. What if you can make them of glass that is that much stronger? Is there, with the carbon, does it create a better conductivity?
Yeah, faster processing.
There's so much that this could create. I just found this extremely interesting.
Yeah, I blew past that the other day. I read the headline to the article, but I was like, oh, that's cool. And I must have got sidetracked by something. But that is, like you're saying, like, what else? Like, I don't know. Could build an ultimate defense, you know what I'm saying? Have things enclosed, I'm sure that's just moving up the what is that called, the periodic table, right?
I mean,
adding to the periodic table.
Not necessarily, because you got to remember the periodic table's elements found in nature. This is made.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of.
But this is kind of like that jump. I forget who said it. There was somebody that said it in on like an interview. But we need that jump, that little. There's got to be something that puts us to the next level, so we can get up. Like if there is the aliens that have this crazy crazy power and shit,
advanced technologies and stuff like that.
Yeah, we would need a large jump, and
we still can't even figure out how to create a better battery.
Yeah. But now we have glass that's twice as, or we have something harder than what we
we deemed as the hardest. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I think that's definitely a good jump, and I don't know. I hope we get to see something come from it in our time frame. All right. Now sticking with the America. So although the Declaration of Independence was signed July 4th, 1776, independence from that did not come until September 3rd, 1783. Now, we kind of already talked about this briefly, but it does make sense that the Declaration of Independence was essentially just like a stand ground. It was this is where we draw the line, and that's what sparked the 7-Year War, or 7-Year War. It sparked a 7-Year War, and then finally we did receive the independence from it. But I thought that was something interesting because I don't know. It's just why July 4th? I get it. It was marked up then and stuff, but I don't know. It's a misconception.
It is, and I think the biggest thing is us as a people. We love symbolism. We base everything off of symbolism. I mean, look at the depictions of the people who, I'm not saying they're wrong, but who go crazy over the flag, who go crazy over the cross, who go crazy over. I mean, symbolism is everything to people. It creates a idolatry.
We put them on our body with tattoos.
Exactly. It creates a belief, and it creates something that is substantial that most people can understand by just looking at and create a feeling for. And the feeling is similar but not the same for anybody. And that's why allegory and symbolism is so important throughout history. Not even just our, current version of history. But
the more we talk about that, the more it starts to feel like it makes a little bit more sense on why July 4th, the symbolism, the attachment to when something was declared. That's why I said it's declared, even that word itself gives it some fucking heartfelt USA shit.
Well, yeah, it was literally a declaration. It was essentially a declaration of war. It was we see ourselves as this. We're declaring that we are going to fight you because you tax our tea too much and we're upset. But I mean, obviously
I would be
there's
too.
Other things, but now we just get taxed out of our fucking assholes and it doesn't matter. All
Oh,
right.
speaking of which, this is a side thing before we keep going. Did you see that? There's a new thing, I believe it's in Mass, where they are having people like try it out. So instead of getting taxed on gas, the taxation comes from like they track the mileage you drive and then dish out tax that way. Did you see that?
I did not, and that's horrible.
See, that's and then it's like I don't even know. I don't know. There's a
Because
lot
then
to
you just
it's,
you're killing in that aspect. You're killing a lot of the state-funded things, i.e., the inspection program. Because the
mm,
reason why the inspection program is there is to limit smog and create safe roads. So it's a dualistic
mm,
thing. So how are you doing that if you hit everybody even based off of mileage? When certain vehicles deposit more carbon, they use more gas, so on and
yeah.
so forth. So you have your instance where it's now cheaper to buy a truck in some instances, because if I drive the same miles as you, it doesn't matter because I'm gonna have less tax because
Yeah,
it
that
just
was a point that was brought to me when I brought that up was the fact that you could have one person who drives alone every day to work in a big F-350, right? But then they get taxed the same as somebody that's like buying an electric car trying to, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, you get an electric car, then you get taxes every year. You get money from that, don't you?
I mean
Or you get more on your tax as a write-off, right?
to an extent, yeah. And I mean the
But
whole
it's
electrical car thing's a joke anyways because you're using more carbon based. I mean, charging it is using more through the power grid than the actual gas. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, it's counterintuitive of what we've been creating,
yeah.
and then you have Sleepy Joe putting in a bill to where just like in California, all vehicles will have to hit a certain carbon mandate by 2030. So we're going to see a lot more electrical vehicles.
Yeah,
So
or
that kind of
hybrids.
goes against that exactly. So that, I mean, that's I don't know. I feel like that's somebody that has a good, somebody in the state office that hasn't, been sitting at home for 2 years thanks to COVID because the state employees haven't had to actually work, and the good idea fairies are flying around just spouting out and having to do something.
Mm, yeah.
All right, but speaking of birds, actually, or fairies and birds, whatever. So, giant bird skull, potentially, found off of Beach State Park in New Jersey. Now,
I see what you're alluding to.
yes. So now the next slide. I mean, you can't talk about this story without having a depiction of it. Oh, jump to. That's
So that,
fucking huge.
yeah, no kidding.
Like, so the article reads that some people are saying it's a dolphin. Some people saying it's this, it's that. It's obviously the obvious people. Oh, it's a pterodactyl. Any way you
Kinda,
say it, kind of looks like a halo sword too. But any way you
yeah.
depict it, whatever the fuck that was, is massive.
Mm-hmm. Compared to him, that I don't even know. Is that supposed to? What is this? Is this supposed to be a beak that opens side to side, or is it open up and down? And
That
this
could
thing's
just be
gonna.
the top section of a beak, because like that would be the nostril in the middle, that's breeze and all that, for
Okay.
oxygen.
I mean, you turn that left picture upside down, bro. You got like either the Punisher or you got like the Predators, like I don't know, Alien versus Predator going on, something
A
crazy.
little bit, yeah. I
But
just found that this was extremely interesting in so many ways, just for the simple
mm,
fact that
you said it washed up.
yeah, they found it on the beach. I mean, you can see like it's got like deterioration on it. It's got. I mean, who knows how long it's been there? It could have been underneath the sand for years and years and years, and it just washed up with
Could have
the
been in a
tides.
whale's, or not a whale's. Could have been in like a killer shark's stomach
Or yeah,
and just
or
fucking.
or of anything really. So I just found that was really interesting, and that's huge. And obviously, it's too new. So like this happened yesterday or the day before. So
Hmm,
we have no
shit.
idea what it is. Nobody's been able to do testing on it. It's just I found this one kind of interesting, something that we could kind of play with and throw our guesses at it.
Imagination.
And
Hmm.
before we know what it is, this is the fun stuff. This is why it's interesting finding artifacts, is because you get to make your guesses, and then somebody figures it out, and then the government tells you what it is, even though it might not be, and then we go on our merry way.
The only way I see a bird though is that right one. If you look at the right one, like they kind of look like if you think about a crow, how a crow has like that thin head,
Yeah.
large beak. I mean, I can kind of see that, but then like it doesn't give you the idea when it's on the left picture. I don't know. That's interesting.
See, to me,
A
I see the
large
bird.
unknown creature.
I do see the bird. I see. So you got the two eyes, obviously. You got the head. You have the top. That's the top beak with some nostril cavity in the middle, and you have to think you're going to have muscle and tissue and stuff on it, so it's going to
Yeah.
make it bigger and more bulkier. And that's the scary thing about that, is that skull is massive, but then think about the muscle and the skin and everything on top of that.
Yeah,
Like,
the layers.
those eyes are the size of his fucking leg.
And then it's a feather and shit though. See, but then you gotta. I don't know. I would have to do a little bit more research into the bird community, I guess. But
Oh, we
like,
don't know anything that big.
yeah, exactly. So it's like then there's got to be other evidence of it, because if there's one, that ain't the last one. Or either that, or it's like an unknown chain that we didn't know about. Like you said, it could
Exactly.
have been buried underneath sand. That's
It's
true.
New Jersey too, so it could be Mothman. You never know.
Keep the theories alive. Shit. All right. Are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into your section.
All right. So today's topic: historical myths, anomalies, misconceptions, things that have been altered. Kind of talked about it a little bit last time with Saint Ives, right? That was the name, right? So yeah. So he, like, he had that one book that was supposed to tell all about Agartha and how to access, and he was going to publish it and burned all the copy. It was said that he kept one, and then throughout time, like I remember like reading something too where it showed you the first person that was to obtain it, and he was already blatantly told you like he rewrote it his own way.
Well,
So
I mean,
that
yeah.
right there.
So like his whenever he died, everything was left to his stepson, and his stepson gave it to a
Like
what's
a
the
general.
best. No. He was an occultist. So somebody who would understand what it was, because he was
yeah.
already a French occultist, and he redacted some of it because he felt it in the author's best interest. So basically some shit that would really fucking throw off, which is crazy because Perry at the time was one of the most forward thinking in the esoteric community. He still is to this day.
Yeah, but even then, like that, because I remember that was like, I mean, they gave the name of the occultist. They like this guy was supposed to just be like, Saint Eves was supposed to be just kind of just crazy. Like there was a lot of even tales of him. They said that he believed that he could, reach out telepathically. So like, I don't know, even then they were still kind of looked down upon, which doesn't make any sense. Like, why would it cause harm to the author? I mean, the guy's already.
Well, I don't think it would cause harm. I think the secondary author.
Reputation.
No. I don't even think it was that. I think if he thought that, you have to remember it was a different time. You couldn't just send out works of art in fantasy and people not think, not claim that you were a witch or that you were this or that you were
anything
that.
new idea.
So yeah, or a sorcerer, and then you get, so there's, I mean, obviously he was already on a tightrope being an occultist. So he, if it was in his mind, could have swayed them negatively towards him or the author and their family, he would have kept it out.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That shit happens far too much. That makes me not want to trust. See, that's like one of the things that makes you just not want to really trust anything. That's kind of why you start thinking about shit like this, dude.
That's why this show is a thing.
Yes, sir. Well, anyways, I wanted to talk America and the religious freedom it was founded on, or kind of. So some of the Puritans that came over, Pilgrims and Puritans that came over, not all of them were Puritan, but, a large portion of ones that kind of controlled what was going on were. Some of them wanted to be free from the Roman Catholic Church, but even though they wanted to be free for them, they still did the same thing. The Roman Catholic, they didn't divide the church and the state. They wanted to keep the church and the state, working together or as one. They oppressed all non-Protestants in the New World, and even some of the other Puritans, such as this man Roger Williams in your bottom of your screen here. He truly wanted religious freedom. He wanted separation of the church and the state, and on top of that, he also wanted fair dealings with the Native people, the New World, Native Americans, and such. So I mean, in contrast, he's much more of a better person than what seems the Puritans at the time that came over. They just essentially wanted to do the Roman Catholic Church, but in their perspective, and have control. And they were not really too cozy with the Native Americans, I guess you could say. They didn't want any part of them. They just wanted to keep on moving in and acquiring land. And, that's kind of where like a lot of that white hate, or no, I'm not even going to say white, but like, you know what I'm saying? Where like it's like the white man came in and take all the land.
They did.
That's kind of where that fucking comes from right there. Williams, he was expelled by the Puritan leaders from the Bay Colony, Massachusetts, for spreading the reckless, quote unquote, ideas, as so they called it. He founded Providence Plantations as a refuge for what he called liberty of conscience. And also he created the first Baptist church in America. These plantations ended up becoming the state of Rhode Island. Now, like I said this earlier, but like if you want to talk about, if America was founded on that freedom and stuff like that, that's technically where it all started, was Rhode Island. It wasn't Massachusetts. Well, I mean, I guess you can't say it was Massachusetts when he was just like trying to spread the shit and then he got booted. But I mean, where really the founding place of just being free and being like, a good neighbor to the other guys was Rhode Island.
I mean, it still kind of consists to this day, if you think about it, with Massachusetts being a far liberal state, and they'll get on their knees for whatever the president or California says, and then Rhode Island is not so much. Also, it's pretty interesting because those Providence plantations are still around today, I believe.
Really? I want to say when I was researching it, when I researched it, there was somewhere, I don't know, it was like some type of museum, because when I looked up Roger Williams, or it might have been, I think they dedicated a whole ass university to him. Yeah, Roger Williams University. Okay, yeah. All right, that was not what I was thinking it was. I thought it was like he's supposed to be like it was like a museum or some shit where he founded everything and like where it was like in the state and shit. But that was not.
I agree with this though. I enjoy this because, like you said, this is the first. So this isn't just in a way the first act of treason towards the English colonies. It is even more profound because this is the first act of anarchy towards the Catholic Church. And let's be real, yes, the Puritans were a Christian, but they still fell in line with that. Like, I understand the Puritan and Protestant movement, had their fights with Catholicism, but they're still an Abrahamic religion. They still fall under the same umbrella. And this is the first man from those lands that outwardly said, no, we're going to rule with our mind and what's right, and not by, again, I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's religion, but the invisible man in the sky.
Yeah, I mean, this guy took it pretty smooth, though. He took it very more Christian. He took it in a modern day Christian way. I'm gonna quote that because like that's like taking it like the high road essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like he didn't like, I don't even know. He probably waited till he got all across and then like seeing the way shit was running, it was just like, all right, and like probably just started telling these like cool idea, like, hey man, like what if we were cool with those guys outside? Like what if like we didn't believe in this, and what if we had some people that were specifically here to enforce, and then the church is something that we all worship, like to the side. Yeah. So like he definitely like wasn't, I don't know. He took a very high road to people that should have taken a high road, or that were perceived in history as taking a high road.
Well, an interesting caveat to that as well is, so there was an article I read about like the land purchases from the Native Americans. So like all of New York was purchased for like what would account for today as like $1,000. So a very, very little sum of money. And the reason being is that it was a different belief system. So the Native Americans did not believe that land could be owned. They believed that it was already property of Mother Nature, or however they dissected that down. And essentially they believed that that monetary sum was essentially rent to utilize that land, not to own that land, which is why they were okay with such a small sum.
I mean, shit, that would make some sense to me. See, like, I don't know. This is literally where those stories of like the white dudes fucking over Native Americans come from, because it was so fucking blatant. And then on top of that, see, right, we didn't even know like about like their language and all this crazy. Like Roger Williams, he was one that after once he left, like, and he became friends and started talking with these Native people. He studied them and he wrote like I don't want to. All right, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was the first book to be written in the new land. Like
Okay.
it was written in English about the Native Americans who he studied.
That's interesting.
But it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't know. Like I don't know. I don't know. It's just taking advantage. It seems like you know you don't know what they're saying. Like
That's
there's
the
very
European
minimal.
way, dude. That's the European way. Whether you go from, the English kings and trying to take over, you have five kings. They're fighting over each other's land to create one king, and then there's one king. And then you go to the other side of Europe where you have the Holy Roman Empire that just wants to control every fucking thing. And
Yeah.
they spread there and they want to just steal land and kill and rape and pillage, and this is mine, and now your culture's obsolete and you're going to learn mine. And then what did they do when they came over to the Americas? They it's the same thing. It's
See, it's
different
funny.
continent, same story.
It's funny you say that too, because like you're right. It's like the European thing. Like I don't even know. Like I read there was a lot of articles like researching this. Like I just like zoomed by where it was like talking about Egypt and how Egypt like I don't even know. They were quite open despite like I don't know. I always thought I could be wrong, but like I always thought like they were just supposed to be, just like anybody else. Like you don't come into our land, we're not sharing unless there's, tit for tat or whatever. But it turns out like I don't even know. They were pretty open with shit. Like even do you know how the Library of Alexandria like came to its demise?
I forget. I was under the assumption, which I can be completely wrong, but I was under the assumption that had something to do with the Crusades.
Yeah, so that's what everyone thought. But it survived so many, like everyone thought like it was burned down and all that shit, right? So I guess apparently it survived multiple attempts at being burned and like all that shit, which did nothing to the library. Nothing was like tarnished. I mean, there could have been shit tarnished, but nothing was like crazy out of here. It wasn't until like something happened with the government or government whoever ruling over at the time where they're like we're going to stop reaching out at these like this at like wow, what the fuck, I guess they took more of a legitimate like stand to of like divide and conquer, like we're not going to be listening and gaining this knowledge, we're force that's there it is. But apparently they did, like it was defunding in the Library of Alexandria that brought its demise, because then it wasn't being like such like a big thing and all
Wasn't
that.
being
And then,
taken care of and all that. Yeah.
yeah, so what they did was they literally sent the most important documents across like, closest like other museums and libraries that they could. Like they just like dispersed it out because they knew that their library was going under and they needed that like really like large, like what I'm saying, that's what if you're in like a military strategy, dude, like information is key, right?
Yep.
But you're just handing it out, what I'm saying? And then you get up into Europe and they probably took it with fucking open arms, like yes, like bring it on in, like have fun with your fucking country.
Well, I can tell you how open Egypt is too. Fun fact: Cleopatra was actually from Greece.
Yeah, wasn't like who?
She was Greek. She was never Egyptian. She just ruled Egypt.
Yeah, didn't she come over and like she fucked in? Yeah, she married into some dude, killed him, married his son, his son.
That whole fucking
this-
all that timeline's all fucked anyways.
They're all
insane.
that shit was whack. But damn, yeah, that's how that blew my mind when I read about that with Egypt being like very open and such. But yes,
All right,
good
on
stuff. Good
to
stuff.
The next one.
Yes, George Washington wasn't the first president. This fucking blew my mind as well. I'm not sure if it's a well-known thing or if it's just like misconstrued. Either way, the 15 people that came before Washington had the title of president. Okay, so it was the president. Now, like obviously back then it was divided, right? Yeah, the Confederation and shit like that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But during the American Revolution, Continental Congress. Now, this is what they were the president of. This was, I'm guessing, kind of what like ran this shit before the Confederation made their own Congress as well. But they chose this guy, Peyton Randolph, bottom left corner. He was a planter, well-known public official. He came from like he was related to a lot of people that were like really like good I guess politicians. As president of the Congress and under his power, formed the Continental Army, and that was to combat Great Britain, so on and so forth. George Washington was at command. Randolph was succeeded in 1781 by none other than John Hancock, who's on the Declaration. Like you see, like you start introducing bigger names, and it's like how do we still not? How is this not like a already known subject to everybody already? You know what I'm saying? We all know that Washington was the first president. Why do we know that? God knows why, but shouldn't we have at least known, this? But let's see. John Hancock. So after the Battle of Yorktown, he sent George Washington, a letter. Said, congratulations. Washington's return was addressed to the president. Like his return letter was like already like there to be like addressed to the president of the United States at the time, which they used that like specific words, the president of the United States, which is fucking wild. But 8 years later, 1789, as George Washington was known as the great revered war hero, he was the first. See, this is where he's the first. He was first to be elected by all United Colonies. So he's still to this day the only president that had everybody. So I guess it was 69 electoral votes back then. I don't know how many.
I think that's where the big misconception is. So we utilize the word first president of the United States because at that time it was literally that. He was the first elected of the United States.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was still like all these other dudes down here were still in charge.
Yes.
Right, until that Confederation grew to the point where they had a Congress in which they elected officials that were in charge as well. And
that's what I'm alluding to is that's the namesake that they're relaying that information off of. But I think that this is really important in the contrast because I don't think that this gets brought up enough that there were leaders prior to him. Because the way the American history books like to describe it as there was this war, GW was he was a great war hero. He was doing this, he was doing that, and then he was the president, and then that's how the story goes. But obviously, there's a lot more behind it.
Yeah, that's the way that there's that facade that America throws over itself, right? It sounds a whole lot better that our first president was this revered war hero that helped win our independence and all this shit. In all honesty, if that guy, Peyton Randolph was never elected, there was, if you go into Wikipedia, it says Sam and John Adams were the reason that Washington became the leader of the Continental Army. But those guys were under the work of Peyton Randolph. Mm-hmm. So Peyton Randolph was the one that kind of was like, hey, Washington is going to be, the head. So it's like,
you got to remember when Washington was a soldier and when he was a general, there were still people above him. But again, it's just you have to remember. So Washington was the first president under the United States. Okay.
Yeah, they're combined.
Like in all historical documents, the winners tell the tale.
Yeah, that's very much so true. Yeah.
So, and that's
how
where
they perceived it. The South was like. I mean, I'm pretty sure the South was pretty bad, right? But
not really at that point. So this is well before everything became crazy. Yeah. You have to remember that war didn't happen until Lincoln.
15 presidents later.
Yeah. So you have which it still was bad, but it wasn't a talking point. So I don't mean to discredit it as slavery was good, but it's just that wasn't the focal point at that point in time because we were still at war or just finishing the war with Great Britain.
Well, I think that's that. So okay, so I think that might be what it is though. Like it was, the Continental Congress was like ruler of everything, but like Washington, like I don't know, it was like people from the South, Congress, political people from South from these other places didn't want him in there. So then I'm pretty sure that's probably how the Confederation came to be. Like it came to be a resentment. They're like, hey, we inputted our like voice, but you guys didn't listen. And like
If
all
we're
that
going to
shit.
join
So I
with
think-
you, we're going to need a unanimous voice and a unanimous leader and a unanimous party and so on and so forth.
And then they created their own Confederate thing, and
Which also
then obviously
created,
it joined, but-
essentially the first democracy.
Mm.
Because they
I
all
know.
voted for him.
No kid. Are you sure?
Not like the first democracy like
Uh-huh.
ever. I'm just saying like in that
In
scenario
America.
in
what it-
America. Yeah, the first, democratic vote.
No shit. Yeah. I mean, that's probably the only time, everyone's ever looked eye to eye right there.
I mean, yeah,
You know what
but
I'm
you,
saying?
you also
Politicians.
you also really don't know if the votes were counted correctly. I mean, there's a lot of the thing we have to remember when looking at history is we always have to look at history with the premise that man is involved.
Mhm.
Anytime that man is involved, corruption is involved. Whether it be minuscule or major, there is always corruption anytime there's man involved.
Mhm.
There's no such thing as an all this is a very altruistic or all good male or person, sorry. Not to gender base this.
Everything's biased.
Everybody is capable of good and everybody's capable of evil.
Mhm.
Everybody who has done good things has done bad things. Everybody who has done bad things has done good things. And the problem is history only tells the good things.
Yeah. To make look good.
Yes, exactly. It's the side of the story. It's a facade.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that shit. I'm gonna hold on to this. This fact is like gonna be like my party favorite. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is gonna thing I'm gonna break out of nowhere and just be like, I bet you didn't even know. Like, I don't even. That shit blew my mind. Like, and then right down at the bottom here, Peyton Randolph. He's who I will probably now look at as the first, kind of ruler over
Leader.
Leader, first leader over a lot of America. 1774 to 1775, John Hancock. He had 2 more years. Henry Lawrence, John Jay, Samuel Huntington. And now that I'm thinking about it, see, like, no, I did not. All right, so Peyton Randolph, he's from Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
John Hancock from Mass. Henry Lawrence is South Carolina. John Jay is New York. Samuel Huntington's Connecticut. But then, like, I don't know. What are the southern states? What were the? I don't even like. That's
It's only 13 colonies. There wasn't southern states. You're thinking you're mixing up your timelines.
No shit. I'm trying to put too much together at once here.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, there is that. I don't know. I thought it was rather interesting.
It is interesting. It's something that I actually want to dive into a little bit more later, just because that's very. It's not even something I've ever even looked into. I just kind of I don't want to say I've accredited it as being correct, but it's not something that in my mind was worth diving into to disprove.
Yeah, and you would never think it would have to be just like I wouldn't even say disproven, but like this is just. I mean, there's hundreds of them out there. There's just hundreds of examples of how man alters shit. It's biased. It's like you said, the winner always tells a tale.
Yep.
So it's just like
and it's like what in all truths there's always 3 sides to the story: my side, your side, and the truth.
Yeah.
And if somebody's telling the side of the story, you're only getting that third of the truth.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. Like, this only like hopefully inspires anybody watching to kind of dive a little bit deeper, open up your head. Don't believe really everything. I'm not saying like don't believe everything, but
Don't believe everything. Fuck that shit. Look up for yourself.
Yeah, at least have some.
Stop taking things at face value. By taking things at face value, you become a mindless fucking drone.
Yeah, you listen to what they want.
Don't even listen to us. Argue with us. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Ooh,
so,
underwater pyramid, huh?
Yeah. So fun time. All right. So underwater pyramid. Can you guess where it is? I'll let you attempt to guess first, if you didn't already see the slides.
Well, now I'm looking at them. Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna throw out, because now it's become like a little bit wider of a thing. The continent of underneath New Zealand, between New Zealand and fucking Australia. So I thought, I honestly, that was where I was first gonna guess, right? And then
obviously you saw ahead.
Yeah.
All right. So
I remember what I saw. I was like, "What do you mean that?"
Next one. There's a hint. And then I say, wait, is that Molech? Do you know who Molech is?
I do not. It is that bull there, is not.
It is the bull is a representation of him. But so he's also represented in one of your favorite videos. Do you remember in the damn it, what is that group called in California that meets and has that ritual? Alex Jones busted.
Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove. Okay. So they worship an owl god. The owl god is Molech.
Yes.
He's represented as a bull and an owl. So I just found that was interesting that there was a representation of him here, underwater.
No shit. No shit.
All right. So there is a city that was found underwater in Cuba. Now this was, as you can see in the slide, it was discovered in 2001. So this is immensely controversial for multiple reasons. One, a tourist found it. Let's just say governments were not very happy that a tourist found this because in their eyes, they failed. And now, if a tourist found this, it can't be true. Okay? So, as you can see, there's multiple pyramids. There's basically, again, like most ancient cities, it looks like a motherboard. All right? So, it is between 2,000 and 2,500 miles deep. It's 0.75 square miles, so it's a decent area. And the big thing is, and the reason why the governments are calling this a hoax or BS is because it destroys their historical timeline. So from how deep this is, and based off of the erosion and the ocean floors rising and all of that, it would have taken 50,000 years for this thing to sink to the level that it's at. If there is an ancient civilization 50,000 years ago, that fucks them up pretty hard as far as their timeline.
They thought the Sphinx was a terror. I think that they probably thought the Sphinx was pretty bad. That 12,000 year, that 5,000 year job. But
this is, another 38,000 on top of that.
What was I just keep going. I'm gonna remember it.
So it was just funny because guess which nation decided to say that it was bullshit?
Probably the U.S.
Greece.
What?
Exactly. Why is Greece saying that is bullshit? There's a lot of hands in this. It was very, very messy research because there's so many people discrediting it in so many different ways, which makes me more interested in it.
Well, you don't hear about the main place that it's found, right? You hear about it from like other places around where they discredit it. I mean, that only happens like, the main place that it's found on, they don't really talk about it, but the other places are, then it immediately becomes a theory. Then
the other thing
becomes something on the internet.
Is why is a nation that does not or is not involved in pyramids or does not have pyramids on their land an expert in such? Now, if it would have been,
was that a land bridge?
If that would have been an Egyptian scholar, or people within that area of expertise, maybe I would have taken this a little bit more seriously, and maybe they have. But the article that I took a lot of my information from was in 2020, so it means it's only a year old. So it's not like things have happened and been talked about, unless it's been very recently and I just couldn't find it, or it hasn't been published in journals. But I just find that this is extremely interesting because, again, you have your same 3 pyramid set that I guarantee you, because they don't show exactly how it's positioned on the island of Cuba, but I guarantee you
the other Mayans,
the Orion Belt and the Sirius stars. I guarantee you it lines up with them just like the other 3.
Yeah.
Or just like the other pyramid structures.
Yeah, well, see, I mean, if you connect... Like, let's say there's a land bridge right there. Like, let's say...
between Central America and Cuba?
Yeah, and that would make somewhat of sense, because California is divided, right? And I'm not sure where that fucking plate goes down, or, like, where it, like, actually... But, you know what I'm saying? Like, if there was some separation, right? That's Guatemala right there on the other side across Cuba, right? So it's like, if that's pulling apart, Cuba could have been connected in. And then you have it's a long ass travel, right? But that could have been.
Yeah, you think if it's 50,000 years old, if you were to do uh, utilize some software to figure out where the actual rifts in the land were, I mean, if that was, that could have essentially been a whole landmass.
Yeah, there is a YouTube video. There's a dude that did, I think it's like an hour long, to be honest, and it was all the way to Pangea. It was like how things moved to get to where Pangea.
Well, not even the moving aspect. So think about it like this, okay? Say it's stationary, right? Because Pangea, you're talking about a couple million years. So you're talking about some serious movement over time. But now, what I'm talking about is think of like water erosion, right? So some simulation to take back 50,000 years of water erosion. The tip of Guatemala and the tip of Cuba could be one connecting piece at that point in time. So therefore, this underwater mass was now another temple in a mass of land.
Yeah, you see that. You see that a few other places. I think. What is that? Indonesia, like over there in that area. Where you ever seen like
stuff?
You ever see like low? I'm talking about low tide, where like you can like it's almost like you walk on the water and like you can actually go out. Like there is.
Well, we have those too. We have the sand. So down south in Tampa, you have like the sandbars and stuff. And a low tide, you can walk all the way to some islands, and then during like regular and high tide, yeah, good fucking luck.
Yeah, but then you think about that with 50,000 years, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
How it's going to fucking just straight up carve. I mean, obviously it's not going to go down and now more water levels rise. I would actually, before like I take into the fact, I account the water erosion, I'd probably take into account the rising sea level first.
Yeah, absolutely. That would come with a simulation.
Damn. I want to see we'll try to figure something out. Because I remember I watched a video that dude that did the Pangea, like was really fucking dope. And like he slowed it down, like he did hit like jumps to like historical brinks when like one country hit where it was gonna be for like, you know, and all that shit. But we gotta figure something out. I'm sure there's something we can do with that. That'd be really cool to do. And we'll definitely do that if we can on the next video if we do it.
Yeah, either the next one or one down the road. All right, so my last section and my last topic is thanks to a buddy of mine, Luke, who I spend many nights with online. On our last video, I iterated the fact of the world map as we know it is a complete hoax and absolute bullshit. Now, he was interested in it and wanted to learn more because he's heard it but never really had it broken down. So I decided that I was going to add this into this video. So, what if I told you that this map was incorrect or incomplete, whichever way you want to look at it, and then let's break it down numerologically, because numbers don't lie. So, Europe. You know, obviously you can't see my mouse cursor, but this big, you know, little tiny space right above Africa. Obviously, we know that Europe and Asia are combined, and there's the Alps of that mass that was connected that we also actually talked about last time with the continental drift, which connected them. Okay. So Europe itself is 3.93 million square miles. Okay, all of Europe. So that's Spain, France, Rome, or Italy, all those small countries. Russia. Yep, stops. Well, it essentially stops at Russia and yes, so stops at the Alps. So that whole landmass, all the mountain, all the little countries up top and everything, that whole landmass is a total of 3.93 million square miles. Now we are led to believe, and Europeans are even led to believe even worse than we are, that they are this massive, all-bearing landmass. They're not. They are literally, just as big as just the United States. But now, here's a funny depiction of the United States. The United States looks much bigger than Europe in this map. It's actually smaller. 3.8 million square miles. Okay? Now, this is my favorite one. Look at Greenland, this fucking monster up here. It's not even 1 million square miles.
Jeez.
Okay.
What about, I don't suppose you have any of the, oh no, you have them right there. Okay.
So, this map is, like I said, fishy. It's not really adding up to, the actual measurements of where they are. But let's continue, okay? It's North America. Nice big, Alaska, Mexico, United States, Canada, which I know Alaska is part of the United States, but just for viewing purposes because it's all the way up there. 9.54 million. Looks ridiculously big. Looks like it could almost compare to Eurasia, Europe and Asia combined. Look at Africa, this big, this little small dwarf that almost looks barely bigger than Greenland. Africa is a whole 2 million square miles bigger than all of North America combined. All these islands up here, everything. So, what does that mean? What does that look like? So here is a map that depicts the scale differences between the countries as shown actually on the map. So the light blue is obviously what we normally see maps look like. Okay, the darker blue, teal, gray, however you look at them, colorblind, leave me the fuck alone, is the actual depictions of the sizes of those countries. Which
see, oh wow, look at Greenland, man.
Yeah, look at Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
Look at Alaska.
Fucked, eh?
Look at the United States. I got another one for you. Look at Russia.
Bro,
look at Russia.
Yeah, I know. Putin's height. His laws like fucking thousands of acres. That is,
and even Europe.
God.
Each European country made itself look bigger than it really is. And look at Alaska, almost completely whole. So
and then Africa's just like real as shit.
So Alaska on the map, or Africa on the map. I'm sorry, I meant to say Africa before. Africa's almost whole.
Gotcha.
So Africa on the map is essentially its size. Everything else is smaller.
Africa's
Very
not
interesting.
the one. Yeah, I mean Africa's got the most
Landmass?
I mean, yes, it has the most landmass, but like if you think about it in terms like I don't even know, the most, I guess you could say, uncontrolled. I mean, like you have like some of those Middle East states that are like pretty uncontrolled, but like let's be honest,
unchanged,
like,
yeah.
What people have to do and shit like that, Africa, like I don't know. They have no reason to lie, right? Who's lying? Okay, they're not making their country look greater. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what it is.
Like,
it's the facade.
You get the United States with Canada is trying to stack up smaller than this great mass of countries here that really just don't do anything better than America, but America's smaller.
But where did we learn it from? Europe. Who did the exact same thing. Every single country in Europe looks bigger than it really is.
Yeah. I mean, what are those states down there?
I mean, obviously there's some that don't, but just for the majority.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's look at what a map should look like. For scaling depictions. So there's a good landmass of what everything actually looks like. Now this map is not accepted anywhere because, that would mean that they'd have to admit to the lie that they created. But this is what it should look like. Obviously, Antarctica is distorted because it's a flat map and it's globe. So you have distortions.
Did you ever find, like, I feel like there's some out there, but did you ever find anybody that was, like, there was literal evidence of, like, a king or something? Because, like, I feel like there's, like, evidence of him telling, like, the, what do they call that, cartographer, right? The map maker? Yeah. Is there any, like, I feel like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, evidence of a king just being like, hey, dude, like, come on, man. Like, up that a little bit. Like, make that a little bit bigger.
I mean, I doubt that there's evidence of that because it's all hearsay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't doubt that happened.
No,
but
I can just feel like I've already known.
You also have to remember that a lot of ancient maps, when I say ancient, I mean, obviously, like, during the Magellan, Christopher Columbus essence, or timeline, they were all fighting each other to be the first one to create a map of the world. So there's going to be a lot of inaccuracies when you're rushing things.
Did you know that motherfucker didn't even sail around the world?
Yeah, Magellan, yeah.
He got, like, killed in the Philippines, and then, like, his right-hand man finished the job.
Yeah.
That's a real fucking keeper right there.
Well, it's the same thing as Christopher Columbus never stepping foot on North America.
The mainland,
yeah.
And then that's another thing I gotta put out there. Turns out scholars have known that the world was round since
medieval
400
times.
BC. Yeah, like since
Yeah.
very long time ago. As a matter of fact, like I don't even know. I don't even know because it was only one dude that literally told the tale. He never even went with Columbus. He just told the tale of Columbus setting out to prove that the Earth was round. And then I want to say like someone is like funding it was slowed because of the fact like he wanted to because yeah that's what it was
Because they thought that the Indonesian islands were much further than he expected. The Indian islands were much further than he expected, and that's why they kept pushing him off because they were right.
Well, not even that. I thought it was for fucking because they knew because he was well. I mean, I guess that's kind of how it transpired through history then, because like that dude did say like he was supposed to set out to prove that the world was round and all this shit, and that's why his funding didn't go through was due to the fact that they already knew it was round, so he was headed off on a pointless adventure that no one wanted to fund until.
Yeah. I wanna have an expedition that proves that Costa Rica is really hot all year round, so everybody pay me a bunch of money to go and tell you my experience so I can live in a fucking lavish hotel all year and tell you how the temperature is.
Yeah. Go out with a fucking thermometer every morning.
Yeah.
Live stream it, take a picture.
Exactly. I mean, it's. But again, that's all hearsay too. You know, obviously there was lots of riches over here. There was gold. There was things that could be mined. They wanted things. And we obviously know that, you know, even Christopher Columbus wasn't the first one over here. The Vikings were, the Scandinavians or Norse people were over here first in Newfoundland and other parts of Canada and potentially even, you know, Massachusetts, Maine area. So
you gotta think like they had to have known because like if scholars and shit knew that the world was round, if they knew this, right, then they're there had to have been like an exchangement of information. You know, there had to have been at least some way that Columbus knew like where he was going, where he was headed, or like at least like a fucking rumor, dude, right? Like there has to be something out there for that. Like I don't know, you just don't go like that's. Back then, I'd imagine it's just a fucking suicide mission.
Well, to an extent,
like go off into one direction that no one else goes off into, unless you kind of have an idea that there's a rumor of something over there.
That's the key.
Whether the rumor was that they found a quicker access to the fucking spice route, you know what I'm saying, or if like, hey, there was some land with some weird dudes that speared us.
Well, let's look at it like this, okay? So you have a couple different options. So the Norse has been raiding, okay. Has raided the, you know, Spanish, the French, the English, all of that for years and years and years. Okay, so you can't tell me that through all of that you don't have people that can speak both languages. You don't have prisoners. You don't have defectors. Again, anywhere there's man, there's corruption. Yeah. But in any of those situations, whether it be prisoners tortured for information, whether it be because. The one thing we know about the Scandinavian people is that they love to tell stories of their glories. So one of their glories would have been hitting the new land, right?
Yeah.
So
and spreading it, rubbing it into somebody's face.
Exactly. So as they're hearing these stories, where they're catching it from prison or from defectors or this, that, and the other, at some point in time, you start becoming weighed down with debt that you're like, you know what, let's take a risk. Let's send this fucking guy over there who claims he's going to prove the world wrong, and let's send some people with some sense over with him. We're going to try to find this new land. We're going to claim it for our own because we're there and we're the, you know, power.
Yeah. Yeah, we just needed that dumbass Christopher to drive the boat.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, if you just take most of what we talked about today, like, I mean, come on, like, you can't just be thinking to, like, what they tell you, or, like, whoever came up with those, like, school history books, you can't always just, like, listen to that shit, like, I don't even know, like, I don't know, even, I'm not even sure, it's just fucking common sense, like, it's...
Well, the other aspect, you know, you look at, you look at the Plymouth
things.
Rock story, and you say you had the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. Who's to say that there wasn't 8 other ships that came with them that didn't make it? They're not going to put that in the history books. They're going to talk about the 3 that made it.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
The thousands of
Yeah.
people that could have been dead at sea.
Or who's to say fucking Columbus didn't even die? You know what I'm saying?
Well, no,
And
he
then
went
just
back
like,
and forth. There's stories of him going back and forth because he went 4 times.
Did he really?
Yeah.
A lot of shit.
So there's stories of him, and he got sick on his last travels. I believe he died in Spain.
Oh, I do remember this. Yes. Yeah. He definitely got sick. He got sick in the new land. They brought him back to home. That's what it was. Some shit like that.
Here, let me go ahead and go back to just us. But yeah, I mean, interesting topics, interesting thought processes. Basically, the same message, even if we tell you don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is just, I love doing these fucking things, dude. Just fucking, I would have never known that there was even predecessors that like still had the same fucking title as a president before Washington, or even the fact that we weren't even really founded on religious freedom. It took a dude to get fed up with the people that got fed up with the Roman Catholics to actually get to religious freedom. Like, I don't even know. We moved across seas, but we still couldn't do it. It's like, I don't know.
We still haven't done it to this day, really.
Yeah, most certainly.
And important disclaimer as well, not that it probably needs to be stated, but obviously we are not scholars. We are not sponsored by anybody. The things that spew out of our mouths are complete and utter opinions. And if you disagree with them, good for you. If you want to tell us we're wrong, good for you. Please do. If you think we're idiots, yeah. If you think we're idiots, you can tell us that too. That's fine. There's a comment section underneath in YouTube underneath this video. Feel free to say what you want to say. If you have something to add on to it or something you want to hear, also please feel free to state all of that. But we will be live again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. The topic is to be determined. I think this week we'll try to create a schedule of some sorts of maybe the next 4 or 5 shows and have that released for the next episode. Have a nice spiffy calendar or something to show you guys.
Guidelines to stick to.
Yeah.
Journey.
Yeah, a nice mapped out journey. And we'll figure out if it's going to be true or not. But that's part of the fun. So other than that, this was another episode of Relatively Thinking. I'm your host.